Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. I'm Maghan McDowell, and I'm the Senior Innovation Editor at Vogue Business. And I'm so excited for our conversation today. I'm sure all of you have seen all of the headlines and the projects related to NFTs and games. And so I hope to sort of talk about that, contextualize that, make sense of it, and look at kind of what to expect in the future, because many of these new technologies are seen as trendy, but they actually have long-term potential. So that's what we hope to focus on in fashion, luxury, and beauty. First of all, if you have any questions or comments, please share them in the chat box, and we will try to address them at the end of our conversation. And or the team of Launchmetrics can respond live during the session. So with that, let's introduce our speakers. I'm joined by Dina Fierro, who's the Vice President of Global Digital Strategy and Social Engagement at Nars, which means that she oversees key digital and social touchpoints globally, and she focuses on innovation particularly, which includes gaming, the metaverse, virtual economies, all that fun stuff. We're also joined by Nicolas Hurstel, who's the co-founder and CEO of Arianee, which is a leading NFT platform for fashion and luxury industries. So we're going to hear more about his projects there. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for having me. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great to see you all again. I know we've actually talked many times over the years about your work, so I'm excited to talk about them today. One thing I want to get out of the way, which we always have to do in the beginning of these conversations, is I'd love to start defining some of the key terms. And I'm sure it's a question you get all the time. It's a question I get all the time. And it's funny because we use microwaves and the internet every day, and I don't know that I could explain those. So maybe one day we'll get past having to explain the technologies. But until then, Perre, putting you on the spot, explain in simple terms, as you would at a dinner party, how you explain to people blockchain and NFTs.
Okay. I'll pass on blockchain. I'll go to the NFT right away.
Okay.
Then we need to go back to it. In the real world, in the physical world, we're used to own stuff that are not produced unlimitedly. We have things. I have this pull, like this sweater, and not thousand millions of sweaters were produced. I don't know how many this little brand produced. Maybe 1,000, no matter how. These two notions: I own something that is scarce in a way, even if it can be super rare or not very rare, but it's always a notion of scarcity. These notions disappeared of our lives when the internet started. Everything became easily copyable. You don't know who owns what. Bye-bye scarcity, bye-bye ownership. In the Web3, welcome back scarcity and welcome back ownership. So with this sweater, I'm here in a room at an offsite. And if I go to a restaurant tonight, I can enter this restaurant with this sweater. When I'll get in the restaurant, they will not tell me, oh no, you have to open an account here at the restaurant and we'll give you the sweater of the restaurant. So here with these two notions, I tried to summarize the difference between Web 2 and Web 3. In Web 3, it was read and write. Web 2, it was read and write. Web 3, it's read, write, own. You can own scarce digital stuff, and you can take them with you from a digital place to another digital place. Maybe one digital place is a game, another one is a social network, another is a marketplace, another is a Zoom call. You take your stuff with you. This stuff are tokens, NFTs, or fungible tokens, and you take them with you in wallets, kind of digital safes that will allow you to connect to services. So Web 1 was username, password. Web 2 was connect with Google and Facebook. Welcome to Web 3 and Wallet Connect.
Okay, so Web 3, I think that's another term we hear often sort of interchanged with this word metaverse, which I think is the most popular word right now. It's surging in popularity in Google searches, and I think almost people are sort of sick of hearing this word metaverse because they're like, what does it mean? Why is it hype and trendy? And so I think that's a key thing to talk about and explain why it's not just a trend, but why it's kind of seen as the third generation of the internet. So like you said, generation one was web one was having websites where you read information. Web two, we brought in mobile phones, we brought on social media. It was more of a two-way conversation. And web three is kind of more digital items have value the same way physical things do. And it's kind of surrounding and immersing us. So that's how I kind of explain it, almost like a social security number, and like your automobile, like your VIN number, your passport. It's unique to you. So it sounds like that's what you're working on at Arianee. So I look forward to hearing more about those projects in a minute. But Dina, I'd love to go to you because I know that Nars has been a pretty early adopter of a number of these technologies, and often gaming platforms, digital items, NFTs, metaverse, they're all kind of part of a similar conversation. And there are gaming elements that are expanding beyond just what we think of traditional video games. So tell us a little bit. I think let's start maybe with gamification if we can. What can you tell us about how Nars has entered this world of gamification? And I guess, how did you use a virtual experience to help your customers?
Sure, that's a good question. I will start by saying that Nars is really genuinely a brand that believes deeply in innovation. So we have been really early to pilot everything from social shopping to augmented reality experiences to, socially and commerce enabled live streams. That said, in the past 12 to 24 months, we've just really seen a trajectory that's impossible to ignore when we think about gaming, digital goods, blockchain technology, et cetera. So for us, 2020 was really the year of strategy setting. I think it was, a level setting moment for so many brands. And that's when brands maybe started to look a little bit more seriously at gaming, although there's still a lot of education to be done there. And then 2021 was really our year of testing and learning. So we implemented 3 really successful but very different gaming partnerships in 2021. The first was, I would say, kind of the simplest one in terms of the execution, and that was an Animal Crossing custom content program. We saw a lot of brands dabbling in Animal Crossing. So to commemorate our Claudette collection, which had like a really playful, beautiful exterior deco, we partnered with a really niche creator within the Animal Crossing community to develop bespoke skins, including, for example, face stickers that were shade matched to best-selling lip shades in that collection. So that was a really fun execution, but it was an execution that was really hard to measure. So for us, it was really about relevance. It was about a bit of, awareness and engagement. So the next 2 gaming pilots that we executed in 2021 were both in Q3, and they were designed to re-promote our shade extension of the Air Matte collection, which is a lip and cheek color collection, absolutely best-selling, especially in Asia. So the first gaming integration that we launched was with, really an Asian, a Korean-based metaverse app called Zepeto. So Zepeto has a really active and engaged community, 200 million plus monthly active users. And I think one of the things that's super interesting about it is that it kind of has hints of what the metaverse could be, although like all of the other meta worlds we're seeing, it's very singular. It's very, kind of lives in a vacuum. But one of the coolest things about Zepeto is that you're able to create hyper customized avatars. I spent personally 40 minutes creating my avatar, and I do think that it resembles me greatly. So as part of our integration, we developed 3 kind of, photo and video booth experiences, engagement opportunities, content creation opportunities with the brand. And then we also introduced a collection of virtual goods, inclusive of virtual makeup looks, which kind of harken back to the brand's heritage as an artistry-centered brand. And then we also introduced a capsule of limited edition virtual merchandise. And it was a super interesting pilot for us. I think, Asia in general is definitely a bit ahead of the curve as it relates to a lot of these, apps and also technologies. But, it was very much a test for us in terms of virtual goods, and it exceeded all expectations. So we actually sold well over 650,000 virtual goods within Zepeto, inclusive of those makeup looks and also virtual merchandise. And then simultaneously, it actually launched just a week or two later. We also partnered with an app called Dressed, which those of you who are in the fashion and the luxury community may know. It has an incredible kind of, inception story in that Dressed was founded by Lucy Yeomans, who's a longtime, editor-in-chief, including an editor-in-chief at Porter Magazine. And Dressed is, again, a really cool, really engaging fashion game. We liked the idea of partnering with a fashion game like Dressed because, again, thinking about Nars, our heritage, our brand story, we're a brand that has an innate connectivity to fashion. And so we partnered with Dressed alongside Gucci, actually, who's been very early in so many of these activations, but to really launch Beauty Mode. So Beauty Mode allows Dressed players to adorn their avatars' faces, which are based on supermodels, with, really, really custom makeup looks. So it was an incredible experience. We saw, again, it's really challenge-based. So users were incentivized to create those looks and also to create dedicated brand mood boards. But on average, users within that game spent more than 7 minutes on each of the challenges. And as someone who, I built my career in social media, I launched so many incredible brands in social. If I could get 7 minutes of attention from someone on social media, I mean, what an incredible achievement that would be. But that's actually the kind of engagement that you can unlock within gaming. And so we're really looking forward to building on the results of these pilots, in the coming months and the coming years.
Yeah, well, that's a lot already. And it's cool to hear you talk about makeup and cosmetics being a part of this, because so often we talk about digital fashion, but I feel like makeup is just as equally, if not more so, a part of our digital identities and how we look. So I think it's so cool to hear about these projects you've done. I know it's like you mentioned 3 separate platforms: Animal Crossing, Zepeto, and Dressed, which are all very different. If you could summarize like just a few key takeaways or learnings that maybe were surprising or super helpful for you. I think the engagement one, 7 minutes, is a huge, huge learning. Anything else that kind of stood out to you from these projects?
Well, I think you're almost hitting on the answer in your question. And I don't think that was deliberate for the audience, but one of the things that we really learned is that every gaming environment and every gaming community is different. And so for that reason, it's actually very labor intensive to work on a lot of these partnerships. But it's also key to consider how the brand really adds value to that environment specifically, because what works in one game is not necessarily going to work in another. And gaming communities are also hypersensitized, I think, to being marketed to. So that reciprocal exchange of value is really important. And I think that that's also just going to be a pillar of Web3 engagement going forward.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because that's what I've heard actually consistently across agencies, brands, developers, that you really have to learn from the endemic community before jumping in, which is such a different mindset from luxury brands in general, which is like, here is our ethos. We live and breathe this brand, and this is what we have to contribute to the world. Whereas in these games, it's trickier because you have to translate your brand ethos and identity to fit that environment, which is, I guess brands are used to doing it in the real world a little bit, but it's like something they have to keep in mind, which is interesting. So I also want to talk to you about NFTs. So NFTs, as we mentioned at the beginning, are non-fungible tokens, which allow digital things to have scarcity, which is a luxury property. So we recently worked together covering the launch of some NFTs that you did. So tell us about your project, and again, kind of how you navigated it and what you learned.
Sure. So, we were one of the earlier brands, particularly in beauty, to experiment with NFTs. So in July of 2021, we actually launched a series of NFTs commemorating orgasm, which, as many of the individuals in the audience may be aware, is one of the most iconic products in all of beauty, much less one of the most iconic products from Nars. So orgasm is an interesting product because I do think it lets us express so much of the brand's identity and personality. And so we felt it was an interesting opportunity to actually commemorate National Orgasm Day, which is July 31st every year, if you want to mark your calendar for 2022. But we thought it was a fun opportunity to commemorate the product, and also actually as a person, as a woman who's really interested and invested in crypto, I thought it was a really interesting opportunity for us to kind of educate the community and also democratize access to NFTs. So in the instance for this release, we partnered with 3 distinct multidisciplinary female artists to really reinterpret the shade of orgasm in a unique digital work. And so one of those artists was Sarah Shaquille, who's built a really significant audience on Instagram, well over 1 million followers. She does these really cool kind of crystal collages. And, you know, for the release with Sarah, we did choose to make that NFT free. Again, just having the thought of democratization. I mean, how cool, for example, for the first NFT a woman puts in her wallet to be a Nars NFT. Like, just what a cool idea. And then the other 2 NFTs, one of which was created by Azed Jean-Pierre, who is, again, a multidisciplinary artist and a fashion designer. And then the last was created by Nina Kravitz, who is a world-renowned kind of DJ and music producer. You know, those were actually sold at the price points of $50 and $500. So pretty accessible when we're looking at some of the price points we're seeing from other brands right now. And they also did have connectivity to real-world rewards, most notably limited edition product. I will say we definitely learned a lot from the release. You know, there were successes and challenges. We executed that program in maybe 60 days or less, which I think is actually unfathomable now, given all that I know. Because I feel like in particular for NFTs, and actually just thinking ahead, you know, for all web-centered, Web3-centered activity, it's like you really need to build consensus within the brand, most notably with cross-functional collaborators on teams like legal and finance. So just getting all of those pieces in place well before a release to make sure that you know, kind of all of the boxes are checked when you think about you know, IP, ownership of those assets, secondary sales. There's just so much to consider. And then I also think, you know, we did learn, and I'm just going to be candid, I would say it's hard to confirm this in a tangible way, but I think that the vast majority of our NFTs were redeemed or sold to users who followed our collaborating artists in this instance. And I think that for our community, and this has only continued in the 6 months since that release, but there was limited awareness actually around NFTs and digital assets. I think many of us live kind of in this almost, you know, a very niche community, whether that's on Twitter or Discord or in marketing communities, and we're just talking relentlessly about the metaverse and NFTs. But at least for Nars, you know, the reality is that it's a very limited subset of our consumers who know what NFTs are. So I think that's going to continue to change, and we're seeing some really interesting data around that actually. But, you know, when we think ahead, we do have a couple of moments this year where we are planning to revisit NFTs, one from a more collectible standpoint, and the other with more of a long-term roadmap in mind. And I think that that long-term roadmap, which we're seeing from some really smart brands like Adidas, you know, I think that that's really pivotal when we look at NFT programs going forward.
Absolutely. I want to address, we're getting a few questions in chat, which are actually really tied into what we're talking about now. So I think it might be cool to talk about them now. The first one, I think, goes back to gaming a little bit, but I think actually it ties into NFTs as well, because the question is about digital sales of digital assets and any revenue that goes to the brand. So I think if I know it's different for each platform, but could you touch on both like something like Zepeto? Do you get some revenue or profit from the sales of these digital assets? And then same for NFTs. How does that work? And there's another follow-up question that I'll give to you in a second as well.
So I think, as you mentioned, every platform is different.
Yeah.
So for a lot of the partnerships that we worked on this year, it was more about paying a partnership fee to the platform for, sort of the integration within the experience, the creative development, the promotion. And there wasn't necessarily a rev share component. That said, we have since had conversations with several other gaming and metaverse platforms, and many of them are based more on a rev share model. And that's why, for example, it becomes really important that the finance team within any organization is kind of educated and up to speed on, the virtual economies and gaming and the revenue opportunity that presents to brands. And then from an NFT standpoint, I think likewise, that tends to be on kind of like a rev share model. So, for brands that are playing in this space, you're taking a percentage of those sales. And generally speaking, the platform that you're working with is taking a percentage as well. Obviously, if you're working with an external artist or creator, it becomes a little more complex. I do wonder if Perre might have anything to add there, since he's like really in the development of a lot of those programs.
Yeah, I mean, the question about, revenues linked to selling digital assets is kind of a hard one to address, like right now for brands, I feel. Our take on that is, one, don't be shy. If you sell valuable stuff, you don't have to give it back entirely to a charity, If it's cool, if it's desirable, you should not be shy. You're selling something, it's a cool product. The second point is, Dina mentioned platforms, and Dina, I don't know, where did you drop your NFTs, on which platforms?
So we dropped our NFTs on a really niche platform called Truzy, which has pretty strong positioning as it relates to the art community and also fashion and luxury. I will say, if anyone's Googling on it in another window, that they're currently kind of, on hiatus as they're in the process of working on some major partnerships and integrations, and will be relaunching.
And so, but is this is this based on Ethereum, or is it on another?
It's based on Tezos. So one of our major considerations in the launch of the program, I would say there were two that were really important. One was that accessibility piece, given the vast majority of our consumers are women, unexpectedly. And I think it's something like just 11% of crypto investors are women. So we wanted to make sure that there was credit card access. And then secondarily, we were concerned about sort of the sustainability question, as well as gas fees. So we wanted to choose an efficient and kind of more environmentally conscious blockchain.
Okay.
And Dina, remind us, I know you mentioned that some were free, some were, I think, $50 and some were $500. And that also affected how many were issued, because we had another question about how many were released. And so I think the price makes them more rare, right?
Exactly. So the free edition was an open edition, actually, as was the NFT that we sold for $50. For the NFT that was sold at the $500 price point, again, we had kind of that celebrity connectivity, having partnered with Nina on that. So we did want to play into scarcity. And we also had tied in kind of real world product that had, I think offered a lot of value to the consumer. So that was sold actually in an edition of just 3, and it sold out in literally moments. So I thought it was kind of an interesting, and again, we're seeing like, $100,000 and $1 million NFTs being sold right now by luxury and fashion brands. But we did think that it was sort of an interesting validation in terms of, again, NFTs as a potential revenue stream for the brand going forward.
Absolutely. Well, that's exciting. And I'm thanks for teasing that there might be more to come. I look forward to hearing more. Perre, I'd love to bring you in a little bit more to talk about, first of all, Arianee, just so people understand what your business does. Could you help us explain? I know we've worked together on a little bit of coverage, but what's really interesting is that it's sort of like a digital passport for physical goods sometimes. And Dina mentioned that her NFTs were tied to physical goods. And I think a lot of your brand clients are tying NFTs to physical goods as well. So help us understand what you're working on and what that means.
Yes, thank you. So, we've created Arianee out of a vision of a world that would be tokenized, a world in which, as described earlier, you could own scarce digital goods, take them with you anywhere, um, and have personalized experiences, access, utility offered by brands and creators and projects. And the vision of Arianee is in the name. We're called Arianee because of the Ariane link from the Greek mythology that helped Theseus escape the maze. So we've always thought that in this Web3, there would be a need for a link between people issuing digital assets and their communities. But 4 years ago, when we started this, it was hard to explain. The topic was not that high. And so we thought, where can we start building this tokenized world for brands? Well, let's start by tokenizing something that has value, which is a physical good. And so we started our journey approaching mainly hard luxury brands, selling very expensive objects, and tell them, look, instead of giving a paper thing with it, why don't you give a token? You're going to be able to do much more things, etc. But our vision has always been to be a Web3 for brands platform, helping brands tokenize and distribute digital assets. These digital assets can be a digital twin for a physical good. They can be a purely digital asset that is a collectible or game asset or something completely different. And they can also be an experience, a loyalty card, an access card. So during the past 2-3 years, we started by building an infrastructure designed to help brands, whoever they are, create, distribute, and interact with token holders without the negative aspects of blockchains, with the fees and the bad environmental impact, etc. So today, I think we've built the strongest platform to issue NFTs at scale and distribute them within the hands of non-crypto users with none of the downsides of the blockchain. So no bad environmental impact, no gas fee, easy transfer, etc. And why we did this? Because we designed them primarily to come with something that was already paid, which was the object. So generally, a user gets an Arianee NFT when he gets an expensive product.
Yep.
But now we're rolling out these properties for much more. I'm going to give you a couple examples of the things that you're going to see in the next couple weeks and months. You're going to see Arianee NFTs enhancing unique experiences offered by luxury brands. You're going to see Arianee NFTs enhancing exhibition and physical activation for consumers and B2B clients for another luxury brands in another place. You're going to see Arianee NFTs being freely minted to remember someone of something they've done with a brand or a store they visited. So, this capability to heavily tokenize digital, physical experiences, we're now opening it up to brands way beyond luxury. Luxury has always been in our mind a go-to market in a world where NFTs are not a world, where Web3 doesn't exist. And now we are leveraging everything we've built to help brands like deploy a park of tokens. We're also helping brands do drops, like paid, exclusive, super cool drops. So you're going to, in the next couple of weeks, some very, very cool projects with high-end brands, luxury brands dropping exclusive digital assets. But they will do that with a combination of digital assets, physical and experiential exclusive value coming with it. And all of them working with us will use this as the first layer of what will be their CRM in a tokenized world, where the social graph is made of tokens and wallets, and where direct marketing and personalization is based on Wallet Connect and push to wallet. So that's kind of where we are. At the same time, and because we've worked so hard on this for years, 2022 is going to be the year of massive deployment of NFTs for physical goods. So, four of the top 10 luxury watch brands will have all their collections on Arianee by the end of the year. We'll have some high-end luxury prêt-à-porter brands who will release massively NFTs connected to their garments with additional services. So, this is starting to pay off in a way, this connection between physical and digital. But at the same time, everything we've learned, we're now opening it up to fashion, luxury brands, but also other ones. Let me tell you one use case. Let's imagine tomorrow, you're a foodie and you go to restaurants and, you get an NFT for every cool restaurant you've been with. And now there's this cool restaurant that is opening in your city. And the guy who's opening it is airdropping you an invitation for free dinner to test the restaurant because you've been to the best restaurants in the city. This kind of super cool use case. I have another one. I'm watching a game on TV, and I can claim an NFT with a QR code that appears during 10 seconds on the field. And if I do that all the season, maybe, I'm recognized as a fan by the club, even more than if I went to 2 or 3 matches in real life. So all of these are use cases on which we're going to work. And thanks to what? The fact that our platform is like, you can mint NFTs at super low cost in seconds, generate a QR code, anyone can claim it. You can create a wallet on the fly, on web-based, mobile, even WeChat in China, without needing to have crypto. And then from there, engage people and give them access to a personalized homepage where they have access to a drop of a physical good or an experience or a conversation. So all of this, now we have it on the shelves. So we're just starting to have fun way beyond, the boundaries of where we started.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, because these are all very exciting ideas, but I think if someone doesn't have a wallet or, they don't quite understand the trajectory of how a customer would come into contact with a brand NFT. So you mentioned luxury timepieces. And this is, from what I understand, how an example would work. And let me know, stop me if I'm wrong, but so if I buy, I think, are you able to name any of your clients, your watches brands who work with you?
Yeah, let's take Breitling or Vacheron Constantin.
Okay, Breitling. So you buy a watch from Breitling. You go to the store. You have a personal connection, because I think it's important that people realize there is a person-to-person connection, because often people think technology replaces that personal connection. So, for example, you go to the store. When you purchase your new watch, the salesperson invites you to download the wallet, the Arianee wallet, right? And probably maybe through a QR code, you can download it. Then you get a digital twin of your timepiece. It's a unique identifier, a unique digital identity that it's only that exact piece. Great. You go home, you have the timepiece. That brand can send you notifications. They can send you reminders to get your watch cleaned, or, they have a new style. So it's like they can communicate with you through the app, through the wallet. And it's like you said, a CRM tool that it's attached to you as the owner. Say you go get it serviced, you can add that to the passport. If you want to sell it to someone on the secondhand market, you can transfer ownership to the new person, and then the brand maintains the CRM, the direct two-way conversation with that customer, even when you sell the watch. And so then they can connect this with this customer, even if that customer has never set foot in the store, right?
Yeah.
Did I get it right? Okay.
Yeah, it's totally right. I would add the fact that if we stay on Breitling, now, thanks to a component we've developed, every Breitling customer has access to their own wallet within their Breitling account. So on Breitling.com, they access their NFT. They can export it to a wallet if they want. to a wallet that is outside of the account, but they don't even have anymore to download an app if they do not want to. Okay, that's the first thing. This thing of scanning a QR code and just getting an NFT is like the most awesome thing right now that you can experience. I would encourage all of you to follow Arianee on LinkedIn, because we just decided yesterday that our really cool holiday card that is an NFT that we sent for the holidays. We got so much awesome feedback that we decided to make it available for free mint on our LinkedIn. And it's a beautiful artwork that we've done. And then you can experience it in augmented reality. So many of the people we sent this to told us, hell, that's my first NFT. And I saw in the chat that someone was saying, yeah, I got my first NFT from Paris Fashion Week, thanks to Arianee. So, and this idea that you can get an NFT without being crypto rich, without being an investor in crypto, without having to pay $50 in gas, or even understanding what the heck gas is, that's something that we will look at in a couple of years from now, being like, how was that so complicated? So yes, for the case of the digital twin that you described, Maghan, it's like super. It's exactly that. You will have other experiences like scanning the NFC chip that is on your jacket or on your leather bag, for example, and accessing the NFT. The NFT can be accessed in a wallet that is the Arianee wallet or the brand wallet. You're going to see more and more branded wallets. We're working on 5 branded wallets with like top luxury brands that will be out in the next couple weeks, months. So you're going to see that. But the cool thing is, we always think about, an app, one more app, the Arianee app or brand app. The cool thing is, inside that, this is a standard wallet with a public key and a private key, and you can export and transfer and continue the experience wherever you want. So even if you end up in brand A app in which there is a wallet, that's fine. Tomorrow you can gather everything in your main wallet, or you can have several wallets that we always have, several emails. So, simplicity, interoperability, and also versatility of the use cases. I think, today we're really best in class for digital twin NFTs. But we're doing more and more things with purely digital assets, drops, free mints, used as loyalty, treasure hunts, experiential, access and community. All of this, opens for brands an immense, incredible opportunity to engage, gamify, and tokenize their surface of contact with their communities.
You mentioned a couple times, we're getting a couple questions for you that I think are interesting. One is, how can we make this process more accessible? I think you did touch on that. I think another question that we're getting is it possible from a technical point of view to mint an NFT in a sustainable way without the gas fee costs? So can you kind of discuss this gas fee conversation?
Okay, so think about the blockchain space as a universe in which you have several constellations, okay? Or several, several constellations. And one of them is Bitcoin, and one of them is Ethereum. Right now, they're all separate, okay? They live their own lives, sometimes far, sometimes close one to another. And then now let's zoom into the Ethereum constellation, in which at the very beginning, the very center of it, there's the sun. The sun is the main Ethereum net. And the sun is like, everything lives because it's here, but it's hot, it's complicated, you get too close, you burn yourself, it's busy. So like, it's the main net. You need it, you absolutely need it, but you have to be extremely well prepared and equipped to work on it, So on this blockchain, there's gas fees, so you pay transactions, it's expensive, it's slow because people move slowly because they're equipped. So, and then all around that, you have little planets that are still in the Ethereum world, but that are solving all of these issues. So at Arianee, we only work on these layers or side chains in the Ethereum, constellation. And in these side chains, well, we get rid of the gas, we get rid of the slowness, but we stay on the Ethereum network because we strongly believe that, this is where this is going to happen. You have the Ethereum domain name. You see now everyone on Twitter is putting their Ethereum domain name as their username. This is happening there. This is where all the industrial deployments are. So we believe we have to be in the Ethereum world, but we don't want to be on the sun because it's too complicated. So we work on this little planet where we solve these problems of sustainability. Look, the entire Arianee infrastructure, if we used it 100% last year, we would have spent the same energy as a French family for 3 months. If we had used the entire capability of our platform, believe me, we were far from there. So we solve all of this while staying in the Ethereum environment, while giving people an Ethereum address, public key and private key, which is the key for the future interoperability.
Interesting. Okay. That sounds like something. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, and last thing, all these constellations, they're going to get together. You're going to have bridges then, and you're going to be able to go from one to another. And all these intranets will become the internet of the value, but you have to, stay tuned for that. It's going to need a couple more years.
Yeah, I feel like this is pretty complicated, but I take your word for it. Thank you for explaining. You briefly mentioned Paris Fashion Week, and I understand that you did give away also NFTs to people who attended. Someone also asked, can you talk a little bit more about the collaboration between Arianee and the FHCM, and will you continue this partnership? So that's the federation that kind of oversees the Fashion Week, from my understanding.
Absolutely. So for every Fashion Week now, every accredited journalist will receive an NFT of its accreditation, which means that not only they can collect them, like you used to collect your badges, but more and more services and accesses are going to be built on top. So already last time at the last Fashion Week, the accredited could go to spaces, physical spaces, and just generate a QR code from their NFT, proving that they are the owner in 1 click, 1 second, and access this place, thanks to a control app that we gave to the Paris Fashion Week. And now what we're working on bringing brands, to use that. Because now you have this accredited. Oh, okay. So now you have 3 NFTs accreditation. You came to the last 3 in a row during the pandemic. You came to Paris. Okay, so maybe as a brand, I can give you something special. I can give you, a better seat. I can give you access to a showroom without looking into the Paris Fashion Week database. You don't need it. You just, read the wallet of the person who accepts that. So that's all about, with Paris Fashion Week, we're really working on a long-term plan, really making sure that since the first day we started, every accredited has the opportunity to get their NFT of that accreditation. And then from there, we're going to build access to them. And then we're working on some really cool stuff that it's always the thing, Maghan and I have been talking for 4 years, and I'm always like, you'll see, I can't tell you that the next thing is coming, because everything luxury and fashion is always so discreet until it becomes public. But look, get ready, because I think the next 6 months, I'm going to call you every 2 weeks to give you names, because that's the main thing. There's a maturity. Paris Fashion Week people, they are so ahead of the game. They took risk already last year, like you, Dina, with Nars, and but now everyone wants to do something. And so we're going to see more and more very concrete use cases. And I can tell you guys, when you'll go to a museum, you'll go to a concert, you'll go to a boutique, you'll watch a défilé online, and you'll grab NFTs everywhere. And some of them will be insignificant, and some of them will be super cool and super rare. And you'll get perks, and you'll be recognized, and you get access to more things. This is the world that we're going to see, in 2022.
Okay, so I want to ask you one small question, follow up on the example you gave, which I think is an interesting, it's mostly hypothetical at this point. But when we think of loyalty, we think of, I'm a person who has a relationship with a certain brand or entity, and I've been with them a long time and I get rewards. My understanding is if you own an NFT, you can sell it, you can do whatever you want with it. So hypothetically, given your example, if I go to two years in a row, 2 seasons in a row, I go to a fashion show and I get the NFTs, I decide I want to price it at something. Could I sell it to someone random who has no connection to the brand, but wants to go to a fashion show, and I price it really high and I make a bunch of money, and now someone who has no connection with the brand goes to the fashion show? Could I do that? And is that a concern for the brand because I don't have a relationship? What is your perspective? I know that's very hypothetical.
No, I don't think that's going to be possible because, accesses to physical spaces will always be linked to verification of identity and,
Okay.
KYC in a way. I think what we propose will be bridged and plugged in with, even brights or things like that are, helping making sure that a person is who this person is supposed to be. But in some cases, let's imagine a department store. A department store maybe today where you get a loyalty card when you spend 10K per year. Maybe this department store, is fine with someone buying this loyalty card for 5K or 10K or 20K and then come and spend more. Maybe the department store is fine even selling it themselves for 5K even before this person spent 10K. So I think in some cases where, it's very exclusive space like a fashion show, you're going to have to prove not only that you have the NFTs, but also the credentials. In some cases where it's like loyalty is already overbuilt, like airlines, Air France or Delta, they're not going to want you to sell or transfer your diamond
Right.
or whatever. But I would guess that maybe Nordstrom, Neiman's, Printemps and all will have an interest in having a liquid, a transferable loyalty program. And I think the capabilities are here in the technology, but then people will do it only if it makes sense. You have so many NFTs that no one buys, no one transfers because, they're not worth it. It's not because it's possible. It's like it's like a hammer. It's not because it's possible to kill someone with it that everyone does it.
Okay, I get it. We have about 10 more minutes, so I just want to set that out there. If anyone has any more questions in the chat, now is a great time to start putting them up there, and we'll try to get to them. I feel like in this conversation, we've talked about two sort of different, two main use cases of NFTs and digital items. One is the revenue opportunity. And I think it's worth saying that according to estimates by Morgan Stanley, they put out a big report on the metaverse. It says that with metaverse gaming and NFTs, they're forecast to constitute 10% of the luxury goods market by 2030, which represents a 50 billion revenue opportunity. So in that sense, they're talking primarily about selling goods. Another use case, which both of you have discussed today, is the idea of loyalty and rewards and kind of ongoing relationships. So I think it's interesting. I don't know if either of you want to talk about kind of where you see the future going, and how much of this is going to be like a loyalty rewards membership versus just a revenue opportunity. Not to say just, because obviously that's hugely valuable. I don't know, Dina, do you have any thoughts on kind of where you see this going for Nars or just in general?
Well, I think when we consider NFTs specifically, there's a few different use cases. Just to summarize, I think what you and Perre and Nicolas were kind of circling around earlier, but it's the idea of ownership, identity, and community. And for example, in the Breitling instance, Maghan, that you were articulating, I think what's so interesting about that is that you're kind of hitting all three, in that it is validating your ownership of the watch. It is signaling your identity and your taste level to people digitally in the same way that watches signify all of that in the real world. And then it's also presumably in the CRM, way, thinking about building community, creating virtual and real world experiences for those consumers. So, those are the things that I think are super, super interesting for both, Nars and also for any other brands looking at NFTs to consider. I will say, you mentioned scarcity. I think that there's also, a time and a place for scarcity and a time and a place for access. And, I have worked, for example, for and with luxury brands earlier in my career. And I think that, more and more, we're seeing a lot of these brands embrace access in all different kinds of ways. And I think that Web3 is going to force us to continue to do so. And so just thinking about, how are we sort of recruiting consumers to the brand, maybe through access related programs. And then, embracing scarcity to perhaps reward, for example, our highest value consumers. So I think that there's like a lot of different plays, and I'm really curious, actually, Perre, Nicolas, for your POV on this as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really think access is a huge opportunity, even with a scarce digital asset, because scarcity, can be super rare, can be one-on-one, or can be one of 100,000. But the cool thing about these tokens is that you can be, think about what I was telling you. Imagine you can, scan, flash a campaign, and there's an NFT on it. And then now if you've interacted with 10 campaigns, maybe you get something, and that's super cool. That's super easy to package. So, I think we're not going to see years and years of crazy expensive drops reserved to crypto rich people. I think it's cool, it's great, but I don't think this is what the future will be made of. I think the future will be made of collecting digital assets, tokenizing value, tokenizing experiences and engagement and products, and building CRM and loyalty on this. And the really cool thing about this loyalty thing is, look, tomorrow you go on a website, on an e-com website, and you connect your wallet. You don't connect your Google or Facebook, whatever, general SSO. You connect your wallet. In this wallet, you have everything you want to show the world. Your ENS, you have your tokens of, NFT collections. Maybe you have a blue chip collection if you're early OG guy, or you have something completely new. Maybe you have a Breitling in it. Maybe you have the first Nars NFT. Maybe you have your loyalty card from I don't know who. And these websites, doesn't know you, used to spend millions, to profile you with cookies and centralize in a database who the hell you might be, looking at what the hell you might have done. And then all of a sudden, pop, this is who I am. I'm coming with my digital assets to you. How personalized can be the experience that you're going to offer me? That's a shift, because when you think of loyalty as a silo of a relationship between brand and someone, now all of a sudden you share, you show. So the counterpart is, okay, you're not going to copy my data. You're going to leave that in my wallet. So I'm safer online. I keep my stuff with me. But on the other hand, it's like full personalization. And all of a sudden, this e-com is able to give me exactly what I need, even if they've never seen me. And when I'm saying that, it's happening today. Half of my tabs are Web3 Connect, Wallet Connect services, NFT marketplaces, digital brands, finance, where I connect my wallet, and the experience that is served to me is perfectly personalized. But the idea of building loyalty in an interoperable way and creating personalization is like so cool. We haven't seen the beginning of the potential for brands.
So we're getting a lot. We have 4 minutes. So I'm getting a lot of questions about advice, because I think everyone does see this potential that you just mentioned. Let me read a few of the questions related to advice. And each of you can touch on what you feel is best for you to answer. They're asking for advice on startup NFT brands. Is the fashion item in an NFT necessarily to bind with games? I think we can definitely say NFTs do not have to connect with games. They can be totally separate. In fact, Dina, I think your game examples did not necessarily have NFTs. It just had digital items. Another question for young professionals looking to get into the NFT and luxury business, where should they go from here? Any suggestions on where to learn more? Vogue Business, just a shout out. I think we do a lot of coverage. We've covered all these projects in Vogue Business. So we do have a membership and a tech newsletter that goes out every Tuesday. But that's another question for each of you to answer. Where do you find out information? And then another advice question. I'm just putting them all out there. Tips for anyone with a more traditional luxury background wanting to make the jump into NFT tech space. So I guess any overarching advice for people who are wanting to make the leap for each of you, what would you say is your advice?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so first, read Vogue Business, which has been renamed Vogue NFT Metaverse Business. Thanks to Maghan, they had to rebrand the entire. So yeah, it's the best place to know everything. That's where I go, where I hear like every morning, oh, that's again, yay, amazing. So that's cool. Then I would say, if you want to jump into Web3, I would first advise you to work on it. Download, get a MetaMask, try to understand how things work, look at things. Don't go spend money, but take a look, read white papers, understand what a wallet connect means. Go on our website. We have tons of content, white papers and things like that. And then if you want to move into tech, first do that. Do your homework. Don't show up from luxury or fashion and come to a startup and say, I didn't know anything about it, but since last month I'm an expert and I didn't have a MetaMask. That doesn't work. Make your homework. But then if we do that, like all of us in Web3, we're hiring like crazy. We don't find people. It's like it's the hardest thing for us is to find the good people to go with the wave and like help brands and etc. So there's a ton of work, but get ready. Get ready.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Dina, what about you? What advice for learning?
I would just add really succinctly that it's important to kind of immerse yourself in the space. I'm sure each of you can relate, but there's almost an overwhelming amount of conversation and content around Web3 online right now. And honestly, a lot of it is very good. And so to Perre and Nicolas' point, I think, setting up at minimum a software wallet. I think MetaMask is kind of really widely accepted, quite easy to use. Rainbow is another wallet that's incredibly easy, all about simplicity, which I think has been a huge barrier to entry thus far with crypto and NFTs. I think spending some time exploring some of the major NFT marketplaces like OpenSea and Rarible. And then, potentially if there are any NFT projects that pique your interest, maybe joining their Discord communities, which is where so much of this conversation happens.
Yeah.
It's also just a great place to connect actually with marketers who are really interested and invested in Web3. And then I would also recommend maybe a couple of follows. I know both of whom, Maghan, I'm sure you've spent a good amount of time with and quoted in articles on Vogue Business, but one would be the venture capitalist Matthew Ball, and then Kathy Hackle, who's sort of known as the quote unquote godmother of the metaverse. So I think they're both incredible thought leaders. They tweet a lot of incredible content. So follow them and start going down the rabbit hole.
Excellent. Wonderful advice. Yeah.
One thing, be careful on Discord, because one, it's overwhelming, and B, it is really a place where people are spending all their time trying to scam other people.
Charlatans galore, yes.
Yeah, so never answer to a DM. No one is going to DM you. No one. Like no one serious. If someone DMs you, they want to steal something from you. They are pretending they are someone else. No one ever DMs you until you have 1,000 followers on Discord and you're super well known. So until you get there, close DMs or don't answer, and never click on anything. Never share your private key. Never give the 12 words. Never believe anyone trying to give you a special whitelist access to something, it's never for you. You get whitelisted once you've done so much work and you know so many people that you get one. I'm never whitelisted anywhere, so it's not going to happen when you start. So be careful.
Okay. Thank you for that warning. And we had, just to reiterate, someone asked for those names again. It's Matthew Ball. He's a venture capitalist who wrote a huge white paper that Mark Zuckerberg has cited as a go-to source. He's working with fashion on many projects. The second person is Kathy Hackle of the Futures Intelligence Group, and she has a big background in Magic Leap and other wearables, and has a consultancy that helps brands from strategy to implementation of metaverse projects. So maybe those names can pop up in the chat. But thank you both so much for your time. I feel like there's a lot more conversation happening, and I look forward to both of your projects in the future.
Thank you, Maghan.
Thanks, Maghan.
Thank you,
Talk to you
everyone.
soon. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.